Total triage might be the best thing I did for my practice, but here's the truth, some practices don't need it at all. Is your practice one of them? I started total triage in my practice in 2021. Since then, I've helped dozens of others do the same. But there's not just one way to manage demand. Others have found other ways and are doing just fine. The question is, which one are you? And by the end of this video, you'll know if you're one of the practices that needs total triage or can keep doing what you're doing. Let's take a real day in my practice before total triage. At 8 a.m., there'd be a queue outside the shutters of the practice of patients wanting appointments. The phones will come online and there'd be endless people calling in. My reception team doing their best to try and answer the calls. Appointments would be gone by 8:30, 9 o'clock. Frustration and pressure would build. And this is one day, but this became a everyday event. Like most practices, our practice fell into survival mode with unintended tactics being employed. If you recognize any of these unintended survival tactics, then you need total triage. If you don't recognize any of them, then keep doing what you're doing. Survival tactic number 1, the phone bottleneck. With traditional ways of booking appointments, the phone is ultimately the main way that patients book appointments. Most practices can only fund so many receptionists, so there are only so many ears and hands answering calls. When demand spikes at around 8 a.m., the calls pile up. Patients either keep waiting or give up, or even worse, at around 2 hours they get kicked off the call. These patients are hidden demand. You never ever know what they were calling about, how ill they were, how much they needed you. They have forgotten. Think about your practice. How many calls do you think get unanswered each day? It's not unheard of to have over 50% of calls unanswered in a traditional booking system. Survival tactic number 2, the receptionists as the frontline shield. If your receptionists spend most of the day saying to patients, sorry, there's no appointments left, they are firefighting, they have become the practice's shield. They receive the frustration and the heartache of the patients full on. And let's be honest, it wears them down. It burns them out. They quit. And then you have to go out and recruit more staff and the cycle repeats. It's not sustainable. Survival tactic number 3, squeezing until we break. We set the clinics to try and be as safe as possible while using all the time that we have for these clinical staff, because it's gold dust. But once the clinic is full, it doesn't stop there in a traditional system, because there's patients coming in or asking for appointments that might be young, might be old, potentially might have cancer, seriously unwell. So clinicians find space to squeeze them in. But does it stop with 1, 2, 3? And this adds pressure onto the clinicians, which again, just like the receptionist, causes burnout. It's not sustainable. The hidden reality, well, I would say it's not so hidden to us. Most practices don't choose to work this way. They don't. It's just survival mode. This was my practice before total triage. Patients were frustrated. Staff were breaking. It wasn't sustainable. And the real problem, demand has crept up while funding has decreased. If none of these survival tactics seem familiar to you, that you have happy patients, happy staff, balanced workload, then you don't need total triage. But if you recognize one of the above, then there is a better way. Total triage isn't about working harder and seeing more. It's about balancing need against the limited supply. A supply that's not limited by us. Do I wish we had more GPs to meet demand? Absolutely. But until that day comes, total triage is what keeps my practice running without leaving patients frustrated and preventing burnout of the staff. So if you think it is for you, click here for the next video.